The next few months should tell us what Texas A&M is going to do in the next transfer window.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in to Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Happy Friday, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I want to talk about an interesting thing that kind of hit my brain this morning. And that is, we just got done with the first transfer portal window. What will Texas A&M do in the second transfer portal window? And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because I think it's going to play into what occurs over the next few months. So, the window coming up and there's another window opening here in a few months. And what I'm kind of getting at here is I think that we will learn about this roster throughout these next few, spring stuff, the spring game in April. I think we will learn a lot about this team. And this roster, here's the deal. We see it all the time. Coaches bring in a bunch of talent via the portal. And, what do you do with that talent? So what I think is going to happen in the portal is I think you're going to see a few players leave. And I think you're going to go see Texas A&M get a few players at a few different positions. So, this is time for coaches to evaluate. What do we got? We've seen time and time again, whether it's a Texas A&M or any other school, happens all the time. Coaching staff bring in a player via the portal, and that player doesn't really pan out, doesn't go well. They didn't, have it. They didn't have. So, it'd be like if a player that Texas A&M brought in via the portal this last window just didn't pan out, and that might happen. And the coaching staff, you can see that. You can see it in practice. Maybe it's one of the non-SEC guys. Maybe it's one of the lower level Division I guys that, hey, they just don't look SEC ready, and we thought they were going to be. We need another guy. So I think that evaluation is going to occur over the next month to 2 months, and that is where we are going to learn what Texas A&M is going to do in the next transfer portal. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, Texas A&M brought in a whopping 23 players in the last window. I mean, that's a lot of players on a roster. Now, you lost a handsome amount of folks as well to the portal. So, I mean, it's not like you can't, obviously there wouldn't be enough scholarships to do that, but it's not like you kept your whole roster and added 23 guys. You lost a lot, you added a lot. And but I mean, the positions that I am circling right now as these are the positions to pay attention to, I think Texas A&M could potentially add there are offensive line, secondary, and wide receivers. I mean, listen, you bring in as many, Texas A&M brought in 1 million secondary players. Does this lead to, this is the situation I can see playing out. What if, one of the guys, Des Ricks, just doesn't look right. He just doesn't look right. He doesn't look like he's ready. And this coaching staff anticipated him being a guy, a starter. And, you could see what would not surprise me with all of the additions Texas A&M made via the portal it would not surprise me to maybe see one of the freshmen from last season in the secondary head out via the portal. Say, hey, listen, I just don't see a path to playing time for myself. You've got a young guy in Terry Bussey. You've got a guy like a Desiree who's got a ton of eligibility left. And you say, I don't think this is the best position for me to achieve my football dreams. I'm going to go find somewhere else to play. I could see something like that occurring, and Texas A&M being in the market for another player in the secondary. And then I think flat out, like I said, the evaluation side of this, if Texas A&M gets these new players on the practice field, watches and just goes, Coach Elko, I just don't like some of these players. I don't think they've panned out like I was expecting them to. I think you could see Coach Elko go after some more players in the portal in the secondary. So secondary is one of the positions. And then I've got the offensive line. Listen, I still don't think they got enough offensive tackles. I mean, you've pretty much got every starter back from a year ago, except for Layden Robinson, who's on to the NFL draft. The way I kind of look at this is, you know what you got back, you know what you got in the portal. You got a tackle, a couple guards in the portal, a couple guys in the high school ranks, but you don't want to have to play high school offensive linemen. We discuss that all the time. I wouldn't be surprised to go see this team go get one more offensive tackle. You got to remember, one interesting thing about the next transfer portal window is that some players need this semester to graduate and get their graduate ability to graduate, to be a grad transfer and not have to worry about the 2 year or I've already used my transfer, all that stuff. So there's players like that, because a lot of people say, oh, well, the people that are leaving in the portal in this window just aren't as good of players, and I can see that, I can see that's not a bad take by any means, but you do have those grad transfer players, and you're going to see a couple grad transfer tackles enter the portal, and that is somebody I think Texas A&M should target. I mean, maybe they feel good about who they've got, maybe, and I understand that, but here's the deal. As I've discussed time and time and time again, this offensive line is going to make or break the 2024 season. If the offensive line isn't good, Texas A&M will not be good. So if you get any kind of feeling from spring practice that this team isn't ready, that this offensive line isn't ready, it's not going to be good enough, you got to go add some people that you think can make it good enough, because you will waste a season if you can't protect your starting quarterback, and you have another season where you have 5 quarterbacks go down with injury and in and out of the lineup all season, and you just can't have that. So offensive line is the next position I wouldn't be surprised to see. And I love the room as a whole right now. I love the young guys. I love the older guys. I don't mind the players they brought in via the portal. I just think that this roster is one tackle away, this offensive line room is one tackle away from me just feeling really, 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 really good about it. So I wouldn't mind seeing Coach Elko go get one more tackle in that window. And I think with the grad transfer stuff, a good tackle could enter. So it's something to monitor. And then I wouldn't be surprised to see like maybe one of the sophomores, one of the juniors that there's, a tougher route to playing time. Once again, those are the type of players I wouldn't be surprised to see leave. The players that you're going to see leave via the portal are the guys who go through spring and they look at it and they go, man, I'm just so deep in this depth chart. There's a lot of young guys, older guys. I'm just sandwiched, transfers. I need to go and try and find a new place to play. And I think you're going to see a few players do that on the offensive line, a few players do that in the secondary. That wouldn't surprise me. The last room I have here is the wide receiver room. And this is strictly because, we know who you got. We know who you got in your guys that are going to start. I don't mind the transfers. I like the transfers you brought in. And then you've got a lot of young guys, a lot of, young guys who I think we all here, all you everydayers here at Locked On Aggies, all you listeners believe can be great players, but a lot of young guys. So maybe one of these 2 transfers they brought into the receiver position isn't it. And they go, okay, we got to go get one more receiver. Could it be a grad transfer? Somebody comes into the portal that looks pretty good. I wouldn't be surprised to see that, to add one more legitimate depth piece that can help you this year. And maybe And also, I'm fine in this window going to get your rentals. I talked about what rental players are in the portal. Those are the players who are on the roster for 5 months. They play the season and they move on. I wouldn't mind rentals these positions, guys that just help. Maybe they start, maybe they don't, but they add depth. I wouldn't mind adding some rentals at those positions. And I do think you'll see some players leave after they see what it looks like, what their path to playing time looks like. If it's not clear and it looks like nothing's going to clear up anytime soon, you might see some guys hit the portal, and then Coach Elko and staff use those open scholarships created by players leaving to bring more guys in. So that was just kind of some thoughts on the portal. I think you're going to see that. So it's stuff to pay attention to over the next few months, because that's when this will be important, and you're going to see that all develop. We're going to talk about a few different mailbag questions that I have received, one of which has to do with Coach Collin Klein, and could he be the best assistant coach in college football? We'll talk about that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. I absolutely love the FanDuel app. It is so easy to use, absolutely easy to use. I've used some of the competitors. The apps are confusing. The odds aren't as good. FanDuel is the place to be. I promise you that. You can bet on all of your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and a ton more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA and the Locked On Podcast Network. So I have this is some of the best mailbag questions I've ever received. Some of them came via YouTube comments. Some came via Twitter. And one, I actually had someone send me a message on LinkedIn, which I thought was awesome. Lots of good mailbag questions. And once again, the plan in the offseason is to do mailbag segment 3 pretty much, or segment 2 or 3 pretty much every single Friday. So if you have a mailbag question that you want answered here on the show, send it to me. DM it to me on Twitter. Send it to me via, comment on YouTube. Send it to me anywhere. LinkedIn, like I said, hey, it works. Send it to me anywhere. I love to do these mailbag questions from you, the listener, and the everydayer, so it's a ton of fun. But the first question here is, can Coach Collin Klein win the Broyles Award? I think the answer to that is yes. I actually had a mailbag question similar last year from someone asking about the same question about Petrino, and I said same thing, yes. The difference is last year, I think, I'm not even willing to say think anymore. I think we all know that Coach Fisher had his hands on that offense, and that was not Coach Petrino. So I think that obviously, here's the deal. Texas A&M's offense wasn't good enough for him to even be a thought in that conversation. Coach Collin Klein, if he takes this offense from where it was last year to where I think he's going to take it, he will definitely be a candidate for the Broyles Award. He is an incredible football coach. I say it every time I talk about Coach Klein. Every time I bring up his name, I say, I do not think this guy is going to be at Texas A&M long, because I do think he will be a Power 5 head football coach very, very soon. He is that talented. He is just a really good ball coach, great offensive mind, and I think he's going to be, one of the next great head coaches in college football. Hopefully, what would be great is if, Elko was at A&M for 8 years and then Klein takes over from him or something, you know what I mean? Something like that. That'd be awesome. But I think you could get 3 really good years from Coach Klein and he's on to be a coordinator somewhere else. So yes, it would not surprise me at all to see Coach Klein win the Broyles Award. Next question I have was, and this was the LinkedIn question. It was Andrew. The person basically said, Andrew, listen, I overhype myself every year. Can this team make the college football playoff? And I said, we'll have that in the next mailbag, episode. And so let's talk about it. Can Texas A&M make the playoff? Short answer, yes. Is it likely? No. We talked about on Wednesday's episode of Locked On Aggies how Texas A&M is going to play all of their – it was here. I think I have my note. Let me pull up my notes. Oh, yeah, it's right here. Texas A&M was in the way too early top 25 on ESPN and on 3, and they had 4 opponents ranked in these way too early top 25s. So on the one on ESPN, LSU was ranked 12, Missouri was ranked 7, Notre Dame was ranked 5, and Texas was ranked 4. Those of you that listen every day, know where I'm going with this, but all of those games are at home. All of those games are in Kyle Field. So what I'm saying is this. I believe Texas A&M will win one of those 4 football games. I believe with everything in me that Texas A&M will win one of those 4 games, go 1-3 in those games, without a doubt in my mind. So that means that if they are able to take care of business against South Carolina and Arkansas and Mississippi State, those not good teams, and then the tough ones beat Florida on the road, beat Auburn on the road, that's 9 wins. What it would take, I think, to get this team in the playoff, the 12-team playoff, remember that. I think it would simply take this. Obviously, you still have to take care of business against the not good. Obviously, win your non-conference games. The bad non-conference teams. Excuse me, I was looking for my words there. The bad non-conference teams. Win those games. Beat your not great SEC opponents on the road. Beat South Carolina, Mississippi State, and Arkansas. Win those games. If you want to have a shot at this, you have to win both games at Auburn and at Florida. That would give you your 8 wins right there. You have to win those 8 games. And then you have to find a way to go 2-4 in those 4 games we talked about. LSU, Missouri, Notre Dame, Texas. If you can go 2-4 in those games and win all the other games and you win 10 games, yes, you are going to make the college football playoff. I'm not saying it's likely, but yes, with the way the schedule works itself out and the new world of college football where you can flip a roster like that thanks to the transfer portal, which Coach Elko has already done, Texas A&M can make the playoff, especially with it being a 12-team playoff, but it would be really tough. It would be tough to do, but I mean, it would not be the craziest thing to ever happen in the world, but I'm not saying I would bet on it either. So this is interesting. Someone asked me, what am I most excited about throughout the offseason? And I tell you, it was funny. We were talking about Coach Tommy Moffitt on the show, I think Tuesday maybe. And what I'm excited about for the 2024 this offseason heading into next season is very simple. I can't wait to see every year, you see this player went from this weight to this weight. He gained this much muscle, lost this much bad weight. That I cannot wait to see that list and what strength and conditioning coach Tommy Moffitt is going to do for this roster. I think he's going to turn these guys into absolute monsters. I think this football team is going to look completely different. I think it's going to help them stay healthy, and that is so important for this roster. So that is what I'm most excited about for this offseason, is seeing that list come out. 2 more questions. So one here, this is a really interesting question. Someone asked me, what is more likely, Texas A&M to win 7 games or 9 games? This is a really good question. To me, this is so even. I think 8 is the baseline. So do you win 1 less or 1 more? I mean, to win 9 games, I've told you the blueprint. You got to beat Florida, you got to beat Auburn, and you got to go 1-3 in the games against LSU, Missouri, Notre Dame, and Texas. I think if you're going to lose 5 games, you would have to go 0-4 in those games and lose 1 at Auburn, at Florida. That's the path to 7 wins. I mean, I know this is a bit of I'm saving myself here, but man, I just think that's so even. I think it could go. I think 8. I feel good saying Texas A&M is going to win 8 football games. or if they're going to win 9 or win 7. I just think it comes down to how they play in those 4 games and can they steal one, and can they play well on the road against Auburn and Florida. Though that's going to be what makes or breaks it. So interesting question. And then how about this? We'll do this. My next question is, does Texas A&M make the NCAA tournament? We are getting ready to preview the Alabama game, so we will move that into next segment. We will talk about the Alabama game and will this team make the NCAA tournament, coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at Game Time. Ladies and gentlemen, I love the Game Time app. Those of you everydayers here know how much I love the Game Time app. It is so easy to use. It is, I've used the competition before, and I'm frustrated with myself that I ever had to do that before I was able to find out about the Game Time app. The Game Time app saves you money. It is the easiest app to use. It shows you what your seat looks like. Oh, okay, I'm sitting here. There's the field. There's the stage. It makes it so easy and convenient to buy tickets. And not only easy and convenient, it saves you money. That is what I love about Game Time. It is the best place to go get tickets for any event you could want or need a ticket for. I absolutely love the Game Time app. I recommend it to everybody walking on the street. Anytime someone's getting tickets, I say, listen, you got to use the Game Time app. And I promise you, y'all should do the same. It is the best app, easiest to use, and it saves you money. You can use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. That's code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Moving on to this basketball team. On Wednesday, we talked about the pain and agony that came from the horrid, ugly loss to Vandy, which, once again, the mailbag question, does A&M make the NCAA tournament? That question came after the loss to Vandy, and I'll tell you, the path got a lot harder. So, let's run through this. You still have to go to Alabama. You host Arkansas. You go to Knoxville. You host South Carolina. You go to Georgia, you host Mississippi State, and you go to Oxford to play Ole Miss. This is not an easy schedule. I think every game on this schedule, in my opinion, is winnable. I think that beating Tennessee twice, winning in Knoxville would be a really tough ask. But I think every other game on the schedule is winnable. You can beat Alabama. You can beat South Carolina. You can beat Mississippi State. These teams aren't as good as Tennessee, and you've beaten Tennessee. You've beaten Kentucky. So, you've beaten some of the best teams in the SEC. So, what does this look like, this Alabama game? Well, first of all, Alabama is one of the best offenses in all of college basketball. They live and die by the three-pointer. That's how Nate Oates likes to do it. They will shoot themselves into a game, and they will shoot themselves out of a game. They can absolutely light up a scoreboard. Listen to some Alabama scores. 99 points against Mississippi State, 109 against LSU, 93 against Missouri, 109 against LSU. Did they score 109 against LSU in both games? That's really amazing. They scored 109 against LSU in Baton Rouge and in Tuscaloosa. That is almost impressive. That is impressive. But Alabama does not play much defense. They do not have much of a post presence down low. They live and die by the three. That's what they do. They don't play, their big man, Grant Nelson. I think he's 6'11", I believe, but he's not very physical. You can dominate this team down low. That's how you have to beat this basketball team. Your Texas A&M is going to have to find a way to dominate down low, get points in the paint. That is how you beat this team. Also, Alabama loves to play fast. They play like Kentucky, who Texas A&M has played. They play fast basketball. They want to get the ball, they want to go, and they want to shot up. Simple as that. They want as many three-point opportunities as possible. That is what they want to create. So, first thing you have to do, a lot of three-pointers means a lot of long rebounds. Texas A&M needs to make sure they are getting on the glass. They are cleaning things up. They are stopping offensive rebounds for A&M for offensive rebounds for Bama, because listen, an offensive rebound is another 3-pointer attempt. So you have got to stop them. You have to extend the 3-point line. You have to get out there. Mark Sears is their really good player, potential SEC player of the year, averaging 20.5 points per contest. Listen, this is a good Alabama team. The metrics love this team despite their 7 losses. They've played a lot of quad 1 games. They've played a lot of good basketball teams. The atmosphere, I don't think is going to be the scariest thing in the world. I mean, Jay Williams called the atmosphere at Alabama equivalent to a tennis match at one point this year. So the atmosphere isn't terrifying, but this team hitting 22 threes is terrifying. So you have to defend the 3-point line. Obviously, Coach Williams knows this. He's not going to go in there and not defend the 3-point line. They know this. They're going to prepare for this, but this will make or break the game. If you can defend the 3-point line, you can win this basketball game. If you hold them to a cold night shooting, if they shoot lights out, they will. Listen, if Alabama shoots lights out, there's not one team in college basketball that will beat them. That's just the reality. It's the way they play. If they don't shoot well, they could lose to anybody. So you have to hope that they have a bad shooting night against you and you defend well and rebound well. If you do those things, you can beat this team. You also need to try and find a way to score down low, ugly this game up, slow it up, long possessions, cut into the shot clock, get open looks, make open shots, make your free throws. That is how you beat Alabama. Right now, I'm really concerned after that Vandy loss about Texas A&M making the NCAA tournament. But if you win this game in Tuscaloosa, I feel a whole lot better about this, the chances of making the tournament. That is going to do it for this week here at Locked On Aggies. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be coming to you on Monday. We will break down this weekend's baseball games, opening weekend series. We will break down this basketball game and, of course, continue to talk football. Monday is going to be a really fun episode. We'll deep dive into this baseball team, what we saw, what we learned, depth, pitching, hitting. We'll see this team playing. We'll break it all down on Monday. We'll talk about this basketball game, whatever occurs, and I'm sure a little bit of football as well. But that is going to do it, like I said, for this week here at Locked On Aggies. Thank you all so much for being here. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Leave a 5-star review on podcast platforms. It really helps the show a ton. I appreciate it. And as always, I just appreciate y'all a ton being here, listening, supporting, leaving great things in the comments. It really makes my day getting to interact and talk with y'all every single day. Really appreciate it and love interacting with everybody. Have an awesome weekend. First football this weekend. We won't discuss that. Everybody have a great weekend, and we will see you on Monday.